I thought I'd show you how it starts. It starts in the dark. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Because it's early in the morning. I love the early mornings. They're like quiet. I don't know. Everything's like resting. I also love like being up early. I feel like it's like my highest form of creativity. So I'm like meditating, mark making, writing, and going down many rabbit holes. So, yeah, the studio is small. But you guys gotta work with what you have, right? For a little bit, I used to feel sad about not having more, but it's one of those things where you just have to, use what you have and be grateful for what you have. And like stop looking at everything else outside of yourself. It's a hard thing to do. It's also going to be very messy, so I'm gonna turn on this light. So it is messy. Well, you can see it. I really did clean it up like 1 week ago. I spent hours, but I just am like full of so many things. Creativity, words. See, this came to me this week. The we is the I, that is the you. So I have like a lot of deep and soulful bits. For a long time I was scared of that. I think this vlog number 5 is going to be what I'm scared of, because I asked you guys, what are you afraid of? But I think it's only fair for me to talk about my own fears, because I still have them. I'm going to be working on this large paper and see what happens. You know, I'm Natalie Dadami. I'm a mixed media abstract artist, intuitive guide and channel, lover of coffee and weird stuff, and a soulful creator. These vlogs are kind of like stripped down thoughts, and they're vulnerable. So I wanted to talk about facing my fears, or I wanted to talk about what I fear, because last week I asked you, what do you fear? I feel like in that video I kind of answered what I feared, but there's really a lot more that I fear. But who wants to admit that stuff? You know, but the best thing to do sometimes when we're faced with like a really hard moment is to kind of admit it. And we don't have to like be on a video, but you know, we can write it down, or we could like find the right person, or you know, to talk about it, to let it out, because when that's like inside of you, it's just festering. And that's why I love art making, though, because ultimately you don't have to have the words, although I do love to find the words, and I have that visual mining class that is really exciting. It's all about mining for words. You can find more about that in the comments below. I love that class. And people are having a good response with that. It's just a like small little window, you know, and moment into how you can start getting more intimate and closer to yourself, and find the words for like the work, and learn to like write about it and then speak about it, and you know, it's a whole thing. Really. So I wanted to like kind of peel back the curtain a little and talk about some things I fear, and well, make art, of course. I'm always making art. Even if it's something small, like, you know, like I was playing with these they're just like moments, and like I always see it's like moments in time. Because like for me in my practice, I can't really plan it out. It's just not how it works. I have to be present with it. I have to like open these doors of emotionality and energy, and it changes like the weather. And again, I'm not always, it's not, I mean, I'm always doing something, but it's not always exactly maybe what I thought it would be. So I'm staying open, and that's how I see my art practice. It's a lot about opening, and it's all about opening, really, everything here on the channel, so it makes sense. So, it starts in the dark. You know, that divine spark of that alchemical creation. I got a new ring. And look at this. Found this at a flea market. It's kind of weird and alien-like. I don't know. It didn't make sense. What is this? Anyway, it's one of those things, like, this inspires me, right? And then, of course, a crystal always inspires me. But it was fun to have a power ring. Woo! It's like the little things, right, that can get us going, spark an interest. So, you know, I wanted to talk a little bit about the things I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of, like, not figuring it out, whatever that means, and always being on the edge. But also, like, it's taken a long time to just come out into this, like, even just, like, just say what it is in the moment, right? And not pretend that it isn't anything that it isn't. That's been like a, like, revelatory for me, to just admit where I am instead of, like, pretend that I'm somewhere that I'm not. I think because, like, the fear is, like, if I don't have XYZ, then I'm not a certain person or a certain artist. If I don't have this, that, then it's like, oh, then I don't really count. But, like, I think that's a lot of, like, external bullshit, really. The stuff that we can really, we'll take that on, and then we won't go do the things that we're really called to do, or even make the work, you know, or say what we want to say because of the fear. So, it's like facing the fears is a big part of not just making art, but of living, right? And they're constantly showing up in different ways. And what I can say throughout my life is that, you know, there are things that I feared, and they actually all came true. Especially in regards to, I won't go into the whole depth of it, but in regards to abandonment, and that, you know, and then it really, like, flung back into me, you know, the more it's happened throughout my life in many different ways. But when it's happened, you know, I was always able to take a deeper look, you know. But, like, I still fear that, right? Because who doesn't, like, want the acceptance, right? But it's all about accepting ourselves, you know. I have that video about acceptance. It's really about turning to face the self more and more, and then that's what I'm, like, learning, not just in the art, but like in the living, right? The living. And how can I say this thing, even though it's, when I come on here and maybe say certain things, it like makes me feel hesitant, you know, and that's that vulnerability. So I do love vulnerability, but not all the time, right? There's something though about opening doors to the truth of the situation. And I know it's hard sometimes for all of us, right? Because experiences are different. And coming on here and maybe talking about a real thing versus like something that's, I don't want to pretend that it's anything that it's not, you know. Which is a little different. It's a little different road to take. Just like, this is what it is. Hi. You know, can we meet in this like field, and just be in all of it, you know? And I feel like at least for me in my art and creative practice, it's like I'm kind of like taking it all in and learning to like dance into the moment. And you know, I do a lot of dancing in the studio, and I actually painted over this painting. This was the demo canvas for that video that I made. It's all about experimentation. Let's experiment. That was an important video because it's like, it's, if you look at the surface level of that video, well, you get the one thing, but go a little deeper and you get a lot more. And that's like how I like my art and how I like my life and where I like to like converse and hang out. I want to go below the surface, you know? This channel is all about doing that. Even if it seems silly, there's probably something more there, because that's just who I am as an artist, and as like a guide and teacher. It's you know, it's deep, but it's playful, and it's hard, but it's soft. It's sometimes cutting, but you know, at the same time, it's like a healing balm, like a soothing thing. So I want to talk about those contrasts a little bit, you know, what I just said, and I have an idea for more stuff around this, but yeah, we could play with the opposites. When I always go like this, right? We want to hold everything gently, even the hard stuff, because the hard stuff, what happens when you just suppress it and deny it, well, it like kind of eats away at you internally, and then that's how you get other issues. I'm not a medical doctor, but I have lived my psychology and worked on healing my body, so in a different kind of way. So I'm gonna say that, and this is just my perspective from my lived experience. It's a very important, because it's called YouTube, so it's me is the you, is the I, you know, is the we. But so this is my YouTube, and I have to make it this way, right? There's like these other things that I thought about, like I just play into what everything says to do, but that's not the artist I am, and it's definitely not how I want to go forward, you know. I don't know. Anyway, so maybe that means I want to talk about that for 1 second. What happens when you look at that, it might mean like a sacrifice, you know, because you can't have what you see right away. And it might be like a blowback in a way, where you have to kind of redirect all your internal stuff and just really decide what's important, you know, at the time that you have, you know, because you can't force any situation. We want to be like vigilant. We really want to like look at it, and it isn't always going to be easy. And it definitely will be challenging, because growth, when you're in that like crucible of creation, that fire, well, you better be prepared, right? And this isn't like a positive or negative thing, it's just a reality of the truth of what I've seen. And it's not to like be critical or deterring, it's actually to be like real. Because well, you know, there isn't always these conversations where there's loss of identity. It's a real thing. There's an alchemy that happens in like our being, like, you know, when you look at nature and you realize we are that. So it's a reflection, so it can always have a redirection and return. I'll say this no matter what I'm doing, probably on this channel for the rest of my life. As long as I'm living, there'll always be this return, you know, because it's just a moment away. And it's just a choice away. In our artworks, though, or like even in our expressions, right? When we fear we fear maybe what the other is gonna say. Or we fear that rejection. You know, those are the things that can kind of keep us blocked and trapped. So we have to face it. Like, yeah. The things that I still fear is the acceptance piece. Like, it's really hard for me sometimes to see the deletes. I don't know, like, I'm terrified. But it sounds like it's stupid to admit, but it's true. Like, so that's why I want to talk about the fear part and what could really be in the way, because it's what was in my way, and it still can be depending on the day. So it's like I'm going through this still. I may be farther along in some ways, but in other ways maybe not, you know? It's not like there's no like, I'm not an like expert in anything. I'm just in this point and place and time and space. And I'm like honoring what I've lived through by expressing it through the art and through the other creative outlets and through my other like life, right, of the energetic and the shamanic, which is important. So it's kind of always a reminder is like, express you. What do you really want to say? It's not really to what is popular, right? I mean, it could be, though. It could be. But maybe we don't want to do that. We don't want to, like, get caught up in the external things so much that we lose who we really are in the process. But like I always say, sometimes you have to get lost to get found. And I have that video. I'll put it up there. It's that one is about getting lost. And, like, the return happens in our artworks and in our lives. And it's important to remember that there's all kinds of weather, right? I'll use that analogy. And so we have the weather of our life, and the storms come to kind of shake us awake at this deeper level, or to like rearrange our life, or you know, to get us maybe making the art again. That was a big part in my past where I had these awakening points, and it really led me into this. But it wasn't, it was pretty messy in the beginning. It still can be messy, you know. You just, and like sometimes it's okay. I mean all the times it's okay. Is like it's kind of like anchoring the awareness to and the understanding to know that this is what it is. But to maybe not stay stuck and trapped in it so much, or like attached to the labeling of it. You know, when we like strip away everything, and you're like metaphorically naked, you know. Well, that's like a different experience. You realize you can be anything again in that moment. So yeah, it's deep here. We go back to that understanding of the opposites. You have to kind of look and assess the whole thing for yourself. And you have to realize that the hierarchical structure that is out there in all kinds of ways, it's not always the truth of the situation, you know. And then also, if you have a vision and an understanding or like an internal seeing or knowing or feeling, right? That's what we're expressing in the creative process, you know, that internal stuff. That's where the artist is born, because the artist is going to say what no one else is saying at the time, and come online, and the artist wants to speak the nonsensical into reality, you know. So don't get lost in like the hierarchical structure that is out there, right? This is my understanding and perspective, because in essence it's all made up, right? Somebody made up in the beginning and then we just followed it. So I think to me what the artist does is like break that structure. But you know, that's what my artist does, I guess. My artist is a little rebellious, very deep and soulful, inquisitive, super silly, and just like ready to speak to in my own way. And this is the thing, another thing I feared. Point of view. Okay, I think this could be the answer, the secret to whatever you're working on, and also where everything gets stymied and blocked. I think it's point of view, because if I take a point of view right now and say, I just said the artist is, but that's my point of view. So I should also say, determine what the artist is for you, and then follow those threads, because that's you know, you gotta do you, because that's where the answer is like lying. It's not in even what I'm saying sometimes. I mean, I try to keep it open so you don't attach to the stuff, and like that, you know, that you have the freedom to choose. You know, it's all about freedom, and that's like, I think being an artist is the ultimate freedom, because you can say and write anything. You know, I think we take it for granted. You know, go get a pen and a piece of paper and like write something. Write something like, here you go. Write something like, write your scariest truth. I mean, you can always burn these or throw them away, rip them up. You know, write the thing you fear. Write what you really desire. Write maybe something you love or something you lost. Or maybe you lost a love. Write that down. Paint it out, right? When we express that forward, you know, and we don't have to share it. I'm at the point where like my journey is to like share it forward now, well, to help other people understand that it can be whatever it wants to be, and you don't have to be afraid, but there will be fear, and then that's why we have to face it. It's just, and we're kind of always coming up against that stuff, you know? But sometimes people want to try to package things for us in neat little packages and give them to us, and we're like, oh, okay, yeah, and then everything will be fine. But it's not how life works. It's definitely not how art works, not in my world. Yeah, it's like a dose of reality. But like, see, that's me being practical and like a realist, and I don't even like that side too much. But I have to say that it's all happened to me, so I have the understanding. And I think we shouldn't like quit on ourselves, right? Because the circumstances aren't right, or you know, we don't know how it's gonna look if we try. Because, like, it might not work out. And those are the harder moments, right? We gotta, like, they maybe hurt our heart a lot. But the cool thing about art making and creativity is you can take that hurt heart and you can write a song or a poem, and you can make an artwork, and that's so powerful, and it's transformative. So remember how I started this video, I'm starting in the dark. Sometimes we are starting in the dark, but it doesn't mean it's going to be dark, and it's not going to stay dark forever, because, the sun will always rise. So in the end, we have to do what's calling us, and it's scary because sometimes, it's not received, or, we think, oh, I have all this great stuff to give, and people don't see it that way. Or like you're trying to get your art further down whatever path, and maybe you're running into like these blocks where you just like, how come I can't, I don't know, do the thing. But so the walls kind of come, those obstacles will appear, but we have to like be ready for it, and kind of try to keep going through it. I mean, or sometimes, there is a resting point, But just because you're resting, it doesn't mean you have to stop creating. I don't know. For me, that's not how it works anymore, but I get it. There's seasons and times of living and creating, and, I can get blocked. Actually, this week I've been blocked, and that's kind of hard for me because I'm usually not. And then, then I noticed I was like forcing it, and it's not working in the artworks, and it reminds me that I just have to like stay open and present to the moment of like creation and what it wants to be. And that's where intuition for me is like really coming from, is like in that open presencing. But I'm not really able to force it. So even I like went to make some work this week. I was trying to like emulate something that happened out of 4 works a couple weeks prior, and it just wasn't coming out the same, and I was getting upset with it. And then I finally said, I just have to like see what is there today. And that's usually how I'm working, but I think because I had the picture in my mind of this moment, I'm like, maybe I can make more of that. But it just wasn't coming out in that same manner. So, what are you gonna do? Like, especially in this like raw expressive work, is maybe the artist, if the artist is muse, or in conversation with the muse that is like beyond them, then there's like a, like this energy and cycling, there's like a, that creative dance, really, that flow, you can't force it. So, you just can't force anything, because, in the end that will hurt you, or you might hurt someone else if you try to force it. So it's like in that flow, and then like in those doorways there might be grief and pain and loss, because you realize like, oh, it was trying to be forced, and that's why it wasn't working in an artwork and in living. And sometimes the conditions just aren't the right moment or time. and like that happens, right? So we gotta like give ourselves grace in that process of unfolding, you know. And then kind of we're always coming up against these questions, and there's many questions, and there's like many expressions, and that's why it's important to just stay true to you